Welcome CFS community to the Catalyst panel, where we explore this year's theme of redesigning society through the topic of catalyzing CFS action goals. Togetherness and collectivism is a catalyst to achieving the 3 CFS goals, so this panel will unpack them, supporting the UN SDG 2030.
This panel will be moderated by Nguyen, founder at Sustainable and Social, and also a contributor at Forbes.
Thank you so much, Daniel. So thank you everyone for joining us today for the CFS Catalyst panel. We're really excited to be bringing you a wide range of speakers to discuss the SDGs and the global goals in line with the CFS commitments. So I will let every speaker go around and introduce themselves and then talk a little bit more about their work and what they do. And then we'll also have some questions at the end as well. So Oliver, if you would like to start, please take it away.
Yes. Hey everyone, this is Oliver from H&M based in Berlin. I'm running a local initiative called H&M Beyond, and we are an open innovation retail lab. So we try to find out early the new products and services that might be relevant for our customers. All the things we do are co-created with startups and entrepreneurs, and we try to be really quick in the hands of the customers to co-create these products. And then fundamentally, if there's something valuable, we try to scale this within H&M. And I mean, many of the things we do would be connected to SDG 9 or SDG 12. That's where we lean into and where we want to have an impact on speeding up the change in the industry.
Great, thank you, Fabian.
Thank you very much. I'm Fabian, I'm from EOS. We are a 3D printing company. So we're in manufacturing, advanced digital manufacturing, and our core mission is to make manufacturing responsible, take care and be responsible for the way how things are made. And we very much look into making sure we have a sustainable source of materials that we can then supply to our customers. We're making sure that only goods are made that are really used. So it's a lot of on-demand manufacturing. And we're making sure that we're using materials which can be, at the end of its life, reused, recycled, and put back into a circular motion. And additive manufacturing has been in the industry for around 30 years. We've been primarily in heavy industries, automotive and aviation. And we've come to a point now where we're moving a lot closer to the end customer. We're serving a lot of consumer applications. And I think we all witness that sustainability has become a main interest in all our activities. In the past, it's been a lot about cost and quality, but nowadays we all want to know where do the things come from that we wear and that we use, and what happens after the use. And it's also very important to us. And I'm very happy to discuss from a manufacturing technology perspective the topics today.
Great, thank you. And then Kevin as well.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. So I'm Kevin, the digital creative director at Cytex Vietnam, because we have 2 manufacturing facilities actually in Vietnam and 1 in Los Angeles. We are responsibly manufacturing mostly denim, but any type of garment, and we see ourselves as a seed-to-shelf organization where we actually produce the garments, but not only making sure we are able to trace it from the fiber level to actually at the end of at the retail level. I'm taking care of specifically as a creative director of all the digital transformation. I think technology has been a really important part for Cytex. I would say I had to use it as a tool for change, making sure we use it with the purpose. So thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to be sharing with you.
Hi, so my name is Rishanti Ulansari. I'm the Global Marketing Director of Comfort and has been at Unilever for 12 years. I'm also the spread head of the purpose agenda at the brand. And actually purpose already become the center of my heart in driving the business. So throughout my career, and my experience working across the markets in the US, UK, Singapore, and of course Indonesia itself has allowed me to help develop my understanding how to integrate the understanding of how to make purpose relevance to the consumers in every market context, as well as empower them. So it's not only about mambo jumbo things that the brands want to say, but actually how to create a movement together with the consumers. It's not only about you or the brand, but it's about us working together to make the change into the society and also into the planet. So in terms of where I am right now, which is in Comfort brand, my vision for Comfort is to use the brand to celebrate that joy and care we have for our clothes, and also ensure people have the best products to make these beloved items of clothing last for longer. And then it's also not just benefit the consumer or us, but also can help them to be true to their self on how to celebrate themselves, and also have an impact to the planet, because by using more and keeping the clothes longer into the lifetime of the clothes, we actually, without we realize it, we actually reduce the clothes waste. So hence it will make kinder to the planet also.
Hello everyone, my name is Ralta Vieira. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fierce Walker Lab. I'm a fashion curator here in Barcelona, Spain. And I created this project when I came here in Barcelona last year in the middle of the pandemic, because I've seen the lacking of knowledge about circularity, sustainability, digitalization of the fashion industry, and how things work. I feel like my company will fill in the gap on bringing change, expansion, and helping the LGBTQIA+ community to get a work, because most of the LGBTQIA+ people doesn't have the proper job. They mostly have the blue collar job kind of work. And for me, as part of the community, it makes me so sad to see that reality. And with the help of my company, I want to bring the change. I want to inspire them to move forward. I want to help more startup companies. I want to help designers, artisans, and empower more the culture here in Spain, because they have a rich culture. They really have the powerful culture and tradition that makes it more unique than the rest here in Europe. And I feel that's the strength of Spanish people that will bring new flavor in the game. And this is what I want to work hand in hand with them.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. So I think we can just kick off with the first question. CFS obviously focuses a lot on the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly number 9, 10, and 12. So respectively, looking at reducing inequalities, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which you're all very familiar with. And then the all-important number 12, responsible consumption and production. Now, lots of businesses use the SDGs as a guiding framework to pursue and implement their sustainability strategies. I'd be really interested to know, does your business use this framework within their strategy, and how do you measure on your performance in these areas as well? Like, do you use the goals as indicators? Please expand.
I can go first. And I think we use, to be quite frank, we use the SDGs as a guideline. I mean, they're a widely comprehensive and acknowledged framework, and we use them as a guideline, and we very much also focus on, I think, 9 and 12 primarily. To be honest, in our industry and within our company, we are maybe a little bit at an earlier stage there. We believe it's very important to us as an organization and to us as the employees working there. But our first step was to quantify where are we today. in order to then set our targets and to measure our performance. So we've put a lot of effort into measuring our sustainability, our footprint, our behavior over the past months and years. And we know very well where we stand today. I think we are doing okay, but there's always room for improvement. And it was very important to know where are we today so that we can now set our targets, or that we have set our targets along with the framework, and now we can measure ourselves how we're improving.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the fashion industry is I would say, a very important one. Because the impact we have on the world and the SDGs is just huge, right? And you're right, Amy. So also H&M is using using that as a framework, and somehow we have tracked all the parts of our business being H&M, and where we have a direct influence, where we have an indirect influence, and when there is an influence also together with our partners in production, for example. So you see that there's a lot of impact and a lot of connection you have, like selling garments worldwide, like as H&M. And I think H&M is continuously aligning strategy, goals, roadmaps, and key initiatives along reaching that goal. So every year there's the sustainability report where you can really in-depth check on how do we take the responsibility here. And I think it's true. I mean, there is so much to do and so many things to do, and COVID has like speed up all the need for development. Whereas we as H&M Beyond, as an innovation team, we really try to focus on creating the solutions in the front end. So for us, it's really important to take the customer with us on that journey, because no matter what, technology itself will not make it, right? So it is kind of about taking the customer with us, looking at the changing customer behavior and offering new services and new values that help for the transformation. So yes, for us, it's a good framework, and we try to do as much as possible in that fields to succeed.
Great, thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I think as Oliver and Fabian shared, beside that, I think it's really important, as Fabian, you mentioned, to be able to quantify, and those goals are amazing guidelines, but we need to make it sure that those are tangible goals. And of course, at the end of the day, I think data is helping us a lot at Cytex. Cytex actually become a B Corp a company a year ago, fair trade as well. So it's important, of course, to be able to score where we are, not just internally, being able actually to hear from independent, I would say, organization telling us if we are doing well. We have our LCA system as well, a life cycle assessment system when it comes to how are we doing with each of our garment production. So we definitely have different initiative. There's not only those three goals. We try to be as Oliver said, fashion is a really challenging industry, and what's really important when it comes to the fashion industry hasn't been so transparent. So that's definitely with those goals what we are trying to achieve as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And actually, I just kind of wanted to follow on from that point as well. We talked a lot about data and quantifying things. So how do you report on your performance in those areas?
So we have a sustainability report, like impact rate, every year at the end of the year. We have a team at Cytex that is in charge of publishing actually those reports. In terms of SDGs, I would be transparent with you. As I mentioned, it's more of a guideline. Definitely, there's nothing I would say to that. And I think that's the beauty of it. But at the same time, there's nothing perfect. Sadly, there's not a solution that's totally perfect. Right. We are trying a lot of things, right? As you mentioned, I think we are in the middle. COVID accelerate everything, definitely, to make sure we are actually transparent on this. But yeah, beside sustainability report that we do every year, I know that you have assessment right from all the fair trade when it comes to social impact, B Corp as well. So that's something you can track and being really transparent at Cytex.
So on the SDG, we have a strong focus on SDG 12, which aims to ensure sustainable consumptions and responsible consumptions, as well as the productions by substantially reducing waste. As a brand, we can address this by two folds. One, through the innovations itself, which our business operations, and also secondly, on influencing the lives of our consumers through our products, which help them be more green with less effort, meaning it's not difficult we just want to make it much more easier for the consumers to be kinder to the planet, not in the complicated way, but it's in a fun way and as well as easy way. For example, we are continuing our work to reduce plastics and excess water usage in our productions line. One of our aims is that every bottle of Comfort will be made from 100% recycled plastics by 2025, reducing plastic waste for the planet and reducing plastic usage in your home. And one of our first steps towards a better planet has been creating a concentrated fabric conditioners supplied in a bottle made from 100% recycled plastics, and then 15% less plastic actually if we compare to the previous bottles. We also want to be able to give consumer the best products that will help them to reduce waste in their daily lives. So it's not only about the packaging that usually about the plastic things that being advocated in the markets, right? But our formulation itself is a plant-based formulations, and then it will strengthening the fiber of the clothes to make it more long. The longevity of the clothes is much more longer, and then keeping it from bubbling or piling, also protecting the color, and then also reducing the potentials of being cracking. So what I want to say here is not only about the formulations or the packaging that is actually good for the planet, but functionally this is really work. So what we want to give to the consumers is not something that just like, oh yeah, because sometimes consumers need to trade off between, okay, this is kinder to the planet, this is much more free from kind of formulations, but the performance of the product is not that strong, which this is in the heart of our products. We want to ensure not only it's good for the planet, but actually remember the performance of the products is essentials. And on talking about this, why I'm talking about the performance is not only beneficial for the consumers, meaning they can see the results, but you know what, the clothes itself, you can see immediate results of using Comfort products versus not using Comfort products or other products, because then you will make the clothes much more longer because it can keep the fiber of the products, keep the color, protect it from bubblings and piling. So hence you can feel new all the time, and then you can use it more and more and more. So hence, what does it mean? It means that you keep the clothes longer to be used. And maybe if you want to pass on that some times to other people, it's in the good conditions, because remember, it's when we pass on, we also doesn't want to just pass on a junk, right? So it also ensures in the good conditions, it's in the proper clothes that we giving to other, and then we can pass on our memories there to other people. So it means that the life of the clothes is longer, so hence we reducing the clothes waste. So again, in terms of packaging, in terms of how we produce it, we also have a targets on reducing the gas emissions, the green gas house, to significant amounts in 2025, and equally the functionals or the performance of the products can be delivered. So hence, we also can sustain the life of the clothes longer in the circulations.
With my company, with SDG goals, I want to work more with people who are really expert in what they are doing. So when it comes to hiring people, I want to make sure that I am getting the best of the best talent. I want to get people who are really known for what they are doing and passionate in advancement, in technology, in raw materials, in artisans, people who have proper education and experience. Because I feel like as a company, it is my obligation to represent my team and my projects well with SDG goals accordingly with my brand partners. Because my brand partners outside of Spain will help me strengthen and empower, just like Circular Fashion Summit and Lablaco, to help trace and track the numbers, to help me to trace and track the data, and also with other partners in Nordic countries that I have. It will help me empower more the business that I have, wherein I use technology via Zoom. Like we're doing shootings via Zoom. We are doing like meetings by different platforms and applications with advancement. We're using different kinds of technology of cameras, and because it's a content production design agency. So when it comes to content producing, we want to make sure that we are advanced into that, like not just Photoshop, not just using virtual reality when it comes to executing the vision and the visuals that we want to perceive, or the storytelling when it comes to our clients. But we also want to make sure that we are using the right instruments, we are using the right resources that we have here in Spain, and cultivate that with the proper knowledge and background in producing quality content.
Would you say that COVID has accelerated the movement, the momentum towards sustainability, or the burden that it has put on the supply chains is rather slowing it down? Because we're dealing with other things.
Was that question directed to Kevin, or is it just
either one of you? You're probably more advanced and closer to the end consumer than we are, so I'm just curious.
Fabian, the question is very valid, I would say. So we are like having a project where we sell on-demand garments. So there's a demand in Europe, and we try to produce it and then sell it to the customers. And that supply chain, it completely broke down for reasons, right? But I think on the next level, on the holistic of it, right? How much need do we have to change the system and to speed up, right? And to be more resilient in all of these aspects, and how we are enabled by technologies and how we secure. I think on that level, I would say it's speeded up. You may call it urgency, you may call it fear. I love that there is an urgency now that is increasing. Still not enough. It's still not enough, but there's an urgency that really, really increased in order to be relevant and be a business that is still alive in the next 5 years. We are all now like really focusing on, but how can we do that in the future? So I would say short term, supply chains somehow broke down. And I think that was a big threat for many, and I think some lost their business, which is tough. But on the bigger level, I would say it just increased the urgency for change. That's what I felt. Would you say so, or Kevin? Kevin is hopefully still
Sorry,
with us.
I'm cutting out. Yeah. Sorry, we have bad connection here. Now, I will totally agree. I think COVID has just been an accelerator and kind of revealing, I would say, that the flow within. I mean, I will talk about the fashion industry specifically, right, and the garment production, but that was just, I would say, a revelator and accelerator. You know, there's of course the financial impact, but as well as the social impact. You know, being in Vietnam, we've definitely seen that. You know, it's really hard here, you know, for the workforce actually, you know, to have been amazingly, you know, resilient as well. I've seen people, you know, like working, really pushing, you know, say that the boundaries of what could be possible to make sure actually to deliver, and that was really inspiring. And you say that you have to, you know, when it comes to, I'm sure I can talk on the behalf of Sanjeev here today, but really inspiring what people, you know, have been willing actually to put, I would say, behind, you know, making sure actually, that the business stays afloat. That was really hard time, right? But at the end of the day, as you mentioned, Oliver, it was just an accelerator, telling us, you know, like sending us some signals about, yes, we have to accelerate in the solution, at least trying. I think if someone comes today saying we have the solution, they'll probably lying from a consumer background as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll move on to the next question now. So we've actually just spoken about how exciting the innovation and technology is in the industry at the moment. So what role do you think that digitization, you know, when we talk about like the Internet of Things and the technology revolution have to play in helping the fashion industry to achieve their environmental and social goals? I mean, there's so much that can be said here, but Oliver, feel free to
It's such a nice question, and I would love to answer it like in a positive way when it comes to the consumers, right? What we really understand from everything we see and read on how the customers are changing their behavior through the times. You can see that there is like still a big attitudes and behavior gap, right? So how we talk about consumption, but how we act then on the cash desk, somehow it's not, I mean, there is kind of a gap, and you could even say it's quite clear on all the age groups, right? So what I read is not that, okay, we are all doomed and nothing will work out. What I read is we have the brain somehow understood things, but there need to be solutions, there need to be support, and I guess that corporates like H&M have the responsibility to offer kind of the vehicles, right, to act in a more sustainable way. And what I like about the technology is that if we do it right, it may enable a certain behavior. If we do it wrong, we just think that tech is driving something. So what we see in the market with end consumers, that if you do it right, you help them to really support a shift in behavior. You help them to see different options, right? So you don't need to buy everything. I mean, sharing economy is going up, but how would that look in fashion? So there is a possibility, but it needs to be tested. So I would say that, for example, transparency and the blockchain technology that also Lablaco uses in their solutions and their use cases. I mean, this is perfect because it encourages sustainable behavior, right? Knowing your impact when you rent something instead of buying it, and knowing what this is worth is helping. It will lead to more informed choices, right? So customers that have like a full picture on indications and information on product level. I mean, this would lead to conscious choices, I guess, because you said it, Fabian, right? We are all somehow ready, but how does it happen? And the third thing is, I think that transparency, IoT is really helping to keep garments or products, let's say like that, in the loop way longer, because the traditional model is you produce something, you sell it, and then you have lost track of it. You don't know what happens with it. But imagine the possibilities today when already in sourcing the materials, you know exactly what the piece is and where it is, and this opens new options. And I guess in the end, it's a development. It will further develop the business into something more sustainable, but it will support the customers in their behavior. And I think you need both. So that's why it helps. In the right way, I would say digitalization and technology is really enabling that change if we do it in the right way.
Yeah, and maybe to build on that, I think you mentioned a very interesting point in the beginning, saying that our understanding and our thinking is a little bit maybe more advanced than our acting. And I can imagine, or that there is a gap, and I can very well imagine that data and the analytics around data and the visualization and the transparency that you reach through data can help us close that gap quicker. I think it will close eventually, but I think we can accelerate that process through analytics and data, and just how we present the savings, not only on a cost, but especially on a sustainability level to the consumer, because we know that from a thinking perspective and from a perception, we're there. We just have to make sure we're also acting on that understanding. And I mean, I think all industries, and I assume also the fashion industry, is using a lot of data and IoT already to optimize for cost, to optimize for efficiency, to optimize for productivity, because that's the intrinsic motivation of a business in the end. But I think we can use a lot of that data plus additional data to also manage the transition also on a consumer level. It's very interesting. Yeah. And yeah, as you said, with tools tracking all that from the very beginning to the manufacturing, to the usage, and even post-life, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can as well, I think that's what you define as well. I think the relationship that we will have, and that we have already with our clothes, right? We are going from the ownership, right, of an object to actually the experience of it. And I think, I'm already too old for that, but I know that Oliver in the beginning, you mentioned, like talking to 8 years old already, that must be, like pretty fantastic to hear what's the relationship, they can have with their clothes. And today I know there's a lot of buzzwords, going on where we talk about NFT, metaverse, and, blockchain and everything. Of course, those, I would say, just tools that we have to make sure we use properly, just not on the short term, but actually having that vision of changing, I would say, the definition of ownership when it comes to clothes. And I think working with LabLaco, and I know that H&M Beyond, you have made that already, correct me if I'm wrong, on the rental
yes.
part of it, that the technology that LabLaco is enabling with, but there's definitely, I would say, more to experience on there. I believe we don't have the answers. We have to test it. We have to try. We need to get feedback from the actual consumers. But yeah, I think, to me, that's the whole definition that's changing about ownership.
In terms of technology, technology is actually at the heart of our brands, because we know in order to be delivering the functions of the products as well as good to the planet, it requires a technology. It cannot just we play with reducing the plastics, or just salami slicing our formulation. So hence it can be deliver much more kinder formulations. We need to ensure that actually the product itself is performing, right? So technology play a very, very important roles in our products. So for example, in order to, like I mentioned, the comfort products, the new comfort product range that we deliver is actually plant-based technology, using a plant-based technology, which is one of the advantage that we have compared to other players in the industry. Why we are going into that trend of plant-based technology? Because we know that this plant-based technology able to protect the fiber but also good to the planet. So meaning is not only about the environmental impacts that we want to deliver, but the functions is also actually delivered. And imagines, the way we see this is imagines like hair conditioners. So we actually sharing a lot of similarities like here. The technology is actually will help us protect the fiber from within. So hence the shape of the clothes will we will try to make it like much more protected, and then the color also will be delivered, and then as well as the protecting from the bubbling or the piling. Now, in terms of the plant-based itself, one of the advantage of that, because now that we are more into concentrations, actually our molecules per area is actually deliver more performance versus the previous formulations, and even versus the other competitors. And then forget about that, but what does it mean to the consumers? Means that because whenever you want to protect the clothes that you love, usually if you lost something, you will taking care of it, right? So we actually can creating products that make it easy for the consumers to look after their clothes without any hassles, and then guaranteed that you will get the results, as well as the fragrance is not only about softening or basically about caring, but we also can deliver the fragrance. And not only about that, the clothes itself will keep longer. So technology play a very, very important roles in here. Now, that is about the formulations. The other things also, we play a big role on how to understanding our consumers, and then technology here playing a very big role to understand what they need and how to communicate with them, because every consumers have a different needs and have a different way of communicating, right? So we have a lot of technology here in order to understand how to segment our consumers, how to target things the consumers better, so we can create what is relevance for the consumers. So hence, when we want to change the movement, to make the movement, it's actually not only about mambo jumbo, okay, this is a planet's things, or you can creating good things for the planets, but it's also very close to their heart, very relevant to them. So hence people enjoy doing the movement itself in a fun and in much more easy way, without any burdens that we put in their shoulder.
Digitization is very important when it comes to my business. It is the heart of my business, to be frankly honest with you guys, because it makes my whole business structure stronger and much more relevant in today's world, because I am embracing the culture of Spain, but most of them doesn't have the real proper knowledge or proper education on how to use digitalization with their projects, such as art, fashion, and their raw materials, which is very rich here in Spain. And my company was tracking and having partnerships outside of Spain with startup companies that using different forms of applications to track the numbers, to track where did we source the materials, where should be the production will be, like if we can do the production here in Spain, and to avoid like traveling and avoiding the carbon footprint. We're trying to always source for the ways to give the content that they need and that they can use more. And also we have to make sure that they're counted with the numbers, because At the end of the project that we are doing for the Fierce Walker Lab, we will give them the full report of the numbers and also how many time did we use there, the emission that we use there. And with the brand partners that I have outside of Spain, it will give them the full brief in a visual way and in a much more advanced, because they can use a VR, they can use NFTs, because we are also selling like some artworks using NFTs, and we're tracking those numbers. And we want to not just create content, produce content, but also help people inspire to get the content that we want, that will give them the sense of pride that they're part of my community, that they're part of the Fierce Walker Lab.
So moving on to the next question, which is still very much linked to industry innovation and infrastructure. I think technology sometimes can be seen as a bit of an instant panacea to some of the industry's problems. You know, whilst we might have fiber to fiber recycling machines at a small scale, they currently aren't going to be able to mitigate fashion seismic waste problems. How do you think that we can ensure innovation and technology is authentic and doesn't distract us from solving some of the industry's biggest challenges?
And I think we all have to make sure we know what we know, and we also act upon the purpose of our businesses. And technology then is only a vehicle. Now, speaking for EOS, we're a very much technology-driven industry, so we're in love with our technology, and we hope everybody else is. But no, the purpose of our technology is to allow people to manufacture responsibly. And we need to dedicate our time, our money, our investments into allowing our users to manufacture more responsibly. And we've done a study the other day, a few weeks ago, on an eyewear case where we compared 3D printed eyewear versus traditionally manufactured eyewear. And we were able, just by tracking all the way from the source of the raw material all the way to the retail, tracking the carbon footprint, quantifying everything, and then comparing it to conventional manufacturing. And we were able to reduce the carbon footprint of a pair of glasses by 66%. So 3 times more sustainable. And
wow,
being able to quantify that really helps us to be motivated and say, okay, we're doing the right things here. We're actually helping an industry to be more sustainable. And I think that's where we shift from being in love with our technology and being in love with what you can do with the technology. And I think that's, for us, very important, that we're aware what's the purpose of our business, of what we're doing every single day. And I think that will drive also our behavior.
Yeah, I like, Fabian, that you say you love your solution and you love the purpose of it. And we also use the word love, and we say we try to love the problem more than the solution we have. And I think it's connected to the same thing. So it's a very not so easy question, Amy, to answer, but I think a company, it has a reason to exist. It has a business, and we sell garments, right? We want to make people look and feel good, and we want to democratize that, so it should be affordable for people. And sustainability, it shouldn't be a luxury, right? So it's always linked to it always goes back to how you do things. And I think when we look at the biggest problems or the things you need to solve in the future, then it is like sourcing of materials. How do you get this material? Is it origin material, or can you increase the recycle, the post-consumer part of it? Can you increase that? And I guess when a company solves the topic of can we produce new garments or new products of waste materials and not take too much origin materials from the fields, I think this is one major step. And coming back to the problem, I mean, you need to love that topic. Like, we want to solve the situation on how do we produce and where's the material coming from? Because if you can work with what is already out there in the hands of consumers, right? If you only have this material available, what we have on our bodies, and if we would only recirculate that material in a loop, then the impact on nature is just amazingly high. So I guess this is one thing, and that's why I love this problem, because when we solve that, the impact will be huge. But still, it doesn't mean that we decrease the value of fashion itself, because we fundamentally believe fashion itself is not the problem. What makes it so tough is the way how we learned to produce and how we produced in the last decades. So we need to change that without changing that fashion has a value for people. So, right? So this is one answer. And the second goes back to what we discussed before. I mean, do people really need to own things? I think that needs to be explored. So we know that in 10 years, a portion of what is in the market will be rented. So not everything will be bought. So this is also a direct influence on reaching the goals. So for me, that means coming back to the question, technology is, I mean, I trust technology 100%. I believe that the future will bring more developments that will help to create that solutions, right? But you really need to be honest in solving your problems. That should be like the first thing. It's not just stupidly taking technology and put it somewhere and this is it. I mean, technology should enable the change. We shouldn't put something in the real world which doesn't make any sense in further developing society and keeping the planet alive.
Thank you. Kevin, do you have anything to add on that? Like, how can we ensure that technology and innovation is truly authentic in what we do and helps us solve the problems as opposed to distract us from them?
No, definitely. I think what Fabian and Oliver share definitely will agree on that. I think technology has, we have to see it as a tool. I think that's what you mentioned, right? It's just a tool. But what we try, for example, at Cytex is to show that investing in technology is profitable for all. Of course, as a business, right, it has to be profitable. Just to give you an example, right, talking about, we have a factory in LA, so it's definitely, there's a social impact in there. We're taking, pride in bringing back jobs. In the US, that's something, we are extremely proud of, but we have to be aware as well of the context, right? We know that, California is actually facing a real water crisis. But when it comes to technology, right, Cytex is working with what we would call like a closed water system, where we basically are able to use 98% less water than it will take, because we know gyms are actually really demanding when it comes to water. But what's really important here is not just about behind the number, is to show that it's profitable, meaning that I can be totally transparent with you and tell you that we save almost $500,000 every year, investing in that water closed system, and we are saving, of course, water, which is our goal, right? As you mentioned, we have to be in love with the problem. That's what we love here. We want to show that other as well, that is doable. And working on, I would say, on the open source model, we invite anyone, as Sanjeev will say that to you, even competitors, they can come to Cytex facility and see that it's possible, because at the end of the day as well, it's not just one company. I mean, humble company like Cytex on our side doing that. It needs to show that technology at scale, it's working as well. And that's something that is really important. Transparency, of course, we keep talking about transparency. Transparency, I think, is really important, as Fabian shared. We need actually to be able within the industry, collaborate together, being able to share that kind of learning that some, I would say, are more lucky, to have access to, and kind of help actually scale those technology to a bigger level.
Amazing, Kevin. Great. And may I add one example to get something to touch here as well. So there's so many amazing technologies out there, right? AI tools that you could perfectly use to predict body measurements with asking just 5 questions, and then you could single piece produce an individual sized garment, right? I mean, then you can have a customer asking for, would you love to have a made-to-measure product. So many customers would say, oh, wow, fantastic, this fits, this is great, I would want to have it. So technology on the front end with the consumer, I mean, there's a desire for it. But then if you don't focus on like really being down in the dirt and building this technology into how you produce, maybe at scale. And if you don't build this in, and if you don't take the resource and the time and the pain to change a model or to change a machine and build in something new, and like take the time and take the investment for it, then you won't succeed, right? And I guess that's what I hear often, that technologies are out there and there's like very interesting technologies out there, but what is needed to really like partner up with big corporates that have like the impact to change and to really impact change, and then really take the invest and take the time and just learn and try out and adapt. So this for me shows that if there's only technology, we won't make it. I mean, there needs to be an urgency, there needs to be a problem to be solved, and there needs to be a will to really change what can be changed without losing your business idea out of sight, right? So it is what it is. We want to sell fashion and make people happy with it, but it shouldn't be a luxury to make this in the most sustainable way, enabled by the technologies that are out there.
No, thank you.
Maybe if I may share one thought real quick. We've just talked a lot about innovation in technology, but I just want to build on a thought you mentioned earlier, that we are willing, and new generations will be even more willing to use fashion instead of maybe owning it. And I think there will be then innovation in business models. Do you think the industry is ready already, that you don't only rent but maybe subscribe fashion? I mean, if we look at other industries, years ago we bought videotapes, then we rented them. Now nobody buys anything anymore, we just stream. And do you think we're ready to subscribe fashion?
I have a thought on that, Fabian. So from all we see is, at first we want to see that the customer is kind of interested in. So, and you can say that. So people would say, well, I don't need to buy, I would also rent. And there's many initiatives where you can at least rent out stuff. So in big corporates, in Zalando has something out there, H&M has something out there. I think what is still lacking, and this needs to be shown, what is it for the many? I mean, what is it for the many, for you and me, right, and for my kids? What is the products that they would rent? And how is the model then behind? And as you say, model development, that's of course something that happens very heavy these times. So it can be subscription, it can be paid per piece, and maybe you have a full table of options for the customers in the future. And there's exciting companies like Pool here in Berlin. It's a guy who is having many different local-based brands in his portfolio, and you can subscribe to his app, and you can be subscribe. You pay, let's say you pay 50 euros, and then you can rent out, I don't know how many, 3 pieces a month out of a very broad curated selection of amazing brands, and this works out fully, right? So in Berlin this works. I think what needs to be shown is that things can be scaled, and you need to look into what are the mechanics for the many, right? So not only doing occasion wear and very specialized garments. So what would H&M customers rent in the future? For me, that's a very interesting question that we didn't solve so far, but you will see many more pilots in many cities and online to make sure we land there, because you're right. I think society is ready for it, but where are the options, and where are the solutions? I think big corporates need to test this.
On this one, as you know, Comfort advocates for the longevity of clothes with a purpose that is deeply rooted in helping consumers shift behaviors that aren't sustainable. There's a clear functional role the products can play by extending the life of the clothes. We allow them to stay in the loop for longer, whether that is to continue wearing them to themselves or to recirculate through swapping and sharing. This allows us to support the SDG number 9 here. But to accelerate the pace of how we can change the ecosystem, we can develop the programs together, and then create the worlds that doing the right thing for the planets doesn't feel like making sacrifices or scaling back on the amounts of joy that our consumers can bring. So the technology itself, we need to ensure that helping us to prolong the life of the clothes. So hence we can reduce the waste in the landfill, and then so hence it means that if they can use it more and more and more, it actually can impact to the society and also the planets better.
The industry should be much more transparent and honest with themselves, because that's what we are lacking. And technology was really helpful for the industry because it will help our lives much easier. Like, we don't need to always travel every 3 months or 6 months to fashion weeks around the world. Like, because every month there's always a fashion week. Every month there's something going on. And in this kind of case, we always need to produce content. And when we produce content, we always looking for ways how to be innovative. So for me, in the fashion industry, technology will help the supply chain. It will help much more people to get an advancement in what they're selling and in what they're offering. If we are getting people who will do the trial and error of this technology and this innovation, it will also help strengthen the power of the fashion players, how to make the industry moving by always looking to test out new ways and new materials or new technology, new applications, or new techniques, to be frankly honest. But first, people from the industry need to be honest. People from the industry need to be open. And people from the industry needs to listen. Because these basic things, no matter how advanced we are when it comes to technology, how we embrace technology, if we as humans, we are not okay or we are not open to such things, there's nothing worth will happen. Because we are the one who will control this. We are the one who can make this technology worth it for our industry and working towards our goals, in our future goals, much more advanced.
I think just adding on that, I think that certain people, certain groups in society are very much adopting like subscription and rental models, but only for certain categories in the fashion industry. I don't think that people would necessarily rent their essential items. You know, we're talking about essentials, we would talk about like sportswear, you know, your everyday jeans, t-shirts, things like that, because why would you rent them? Because you're going to keep them all the time. So, you know, your staple pieces. So it's really interesting in that sense. And then I think also, you know, if we're talking about digitalization of, say, like occasion wear, you know, we see people paying like $4,000 now for a digital handbag, which is quite crazy. So that's another area to explore as well. But I'm not sure how widely adopted that will be. So just to keep the conversation flowing, just because I'm conscious of time, we've talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, technology and innovation, but where do you think the global goals or the, you know, the commitments of the fashion industry in general could go further in their ambitions? Like, where would you like to see the industry really make some solid targets on, or, you know, solid commitments on?
That's not an easy one. I think on the SciTech side, as we mentioned, there's there's so many things, right, to do. We have to make sure not to get lost, on the way. One thing that I think we're being silent for so long, I think, is the equality when it comes to, of course, we're talking about the experience, access to fashion, but when it comes to people with different abilities, I think that's something that, we talk a lot about sustainability, we talk a lot about transparency, but something, as I mentioned earlier, something that's really important is like acknowledge that by 2050 there will actually be more than 2 billion people that will be suffering, from different kind of challenging abilities, and that's something I think fashion. I saw some brands, to be honest, trying now and then. I know, for example, to name them, Ralph Lauren. We made that accessible lines, and when you look at it, those solutions are, I will not say simple, but they are so accessible, if I can say so. And sadly, we haven't seen so much in there. When we talk about, it's not just about the number, of course, but 2 billion people. It's not, I would say, it's not niche, right, when it comes to that. So I think for me, of course, and technology could help definitely on that. But yes, I would say like equality, to access and to being able to enjoy as well the experience that, fashion is mentioning, because 2 billion people is nothing. And for so long, I think, we have amazing movements, the Friday for Future, all those amazing movements that we have seen for the past couple of years. But sadly, I haven't seen, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen so much, I'd say, energy going into, speaking loudly for those 2 billion people. And I know that's something we try, for example, we have that recut innovation, as I mentioned earlier. And when I talk to Sanjay, I say, okay, but why we didn't do that earlier, right? And he say, since he actually came up, more than 15 years ago, he said that, but Kevin, that's something I've been trying from the beginning. That was my goal. But yes, there is some, some implication in there. Definitely, it costs money, for example, to mainstream, someone with different abilities. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we need to prove that what Cytec is trying to do, we need to prove that it's profitable for everyone, right? From a business point of view, of course, it's profitable, but just behind that is a company commitment, right? The business commitment, there's an individual commitment as well. And I would love, having more conversation professionally, and we'll say personally as well, giving voice to those 2 billion people.
Yeah. It's a very, very good point. Especially when we're looking at the many, we look at the stereotypical mainstream human being, and that's already wrong said probably, but the number you just mentioned is amazing. And I think, again, we have so many means, tools, ways to serve such a market, not only from a business perspective, but also from a humanitarian perspective, to make them feel more inclusive, and very interesting. I'm missing the transparency, how far we are into this, but as a consumer into this, I would very much agree that it seems niche, even though it isn't.
Yeah, and I mean, I can add to that. Global inequalities. I've checked before talking to you today. I've checked the number of people working in H&M supply chain, and it's 1.5 million. Like within the partners we have, and the first tier, second tier, third tier suppliers. And as you know, there's many women working in production of garments, right? And what I like about H&M, that we are trying to create the transparency, Fabian, that you asked for, right? How is the development? Because I mean, if you would separate H&M strategies into 3, that is connected to the circular and climate positive fashion industry as an equal company. So there's Lead the Change, which connects to the innovation aspect. Then there's circular and climate positive. Here it's about how we produce and what kinds of materials we use. And the third is to be fair and equal. And H&M is like putting that fair and equal strategy on our corporate world, so the people that are working within H&M. and how the whole supply chain works, right? And internally for H&M, there is like a very strong commitment on being this inclusive and diverse company that we want to be, and there's every year there's like a very transparent communication on how far have we developed, right? What's the share of females within H&M in the management positions? How do people feel working for H&M? So there's questions in a yearly feedback. I feel treated with respect and I can be who I want. So a very personal question, right, that everyone answers. And I think last year, on the last 3 years, more than 80% working within the H&M world company would say, I feel I can be who I am, and I am treated with respect and to be who I am. So internally, I think there you have trainings, you have like trainings on bias, trainings on respecting cultures, right, and thinking. So there's a like a very direct influence on how people feel and how we are set up as a company in our culture. When it comes to the supply chain, I think what we will see much more is, even further down the line, improved working conditions. And that's a journey, right? This is nothing you reach once and then you have it. So it's continuously improving working conditions, having a proper representation of women in production, take influence on improved wages, right? So this is a very, really important one. But also, and here this is going more into what will happen in the future, it's opportunities to develop. Because talking to suppliers, when they hear technologies are coming, nearshore production might be there at a certain time, right? Because if you produce on demand and nearshore, then you have a very stable supply chain. But what does that mean for production countries, right? So is that a threat? What will happen? Will H&M at a certain time produce in Europe and in US and no longer in Asia? So there's not a clear answer on black and white or yes and no. I think what is really important in the next time, and Amy, your question was for what would you want to see? My question is, what is our view on keeping the workers in the loop? How do we deal with like these millions of fantastic people creating great products? What is their role in the future in the whole reskilling process that society takes in general, right? So how will this happen in the future? And I think there we need to find discussion points, or at least questions, and then try to answer that, how this development goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree on that. And just to add something in, I then think that it's a really simple thing, and it's not even to do with innovation or technology. It's for brands and companies working across the fashion value chain to advocate for these people's rights, and push for actual legislation and regulation, because there's so many industry pacts and pledges, but really if we had laws in place, and I know we have some, but if we had more, then we'd be able to, further achieve those goals. Kevin, did you have anything else to add?
Not on my side. I think that was all. Of course, there's a lot of things we would love to see and push forward, when it comes to sustainability. I think transparency, trust. I think we have to gain trust. That's something that is really important, mainly within the fashion industry. We have seen, sadly, a lot of bad things, right? And we need to gain trust when it comes to it. It's amazing, coming from France, we have a tendency to lecture people and to think people, consumer are not, I would say, educated enough. But it's our role, I think, as brand, as company, to enable that trust when it comes to transparency. It's amazing to throw, it's nice to throw numbers and to talk about transparency. But I think first we really need to gain that trust, either to gain it back and provide as well, using, that was mentioned, technology as well, to earn that trust and not fall into the gimmicks of using technology just to have that short span of attention, using it for PR stunt and everything. As we say, at the end of the day, it has to be profitable for all, starting for the business. Of course, we understand that, but yeah, I think trust is something that is really important. We have to be able to build it, to earn it as business, and talking as a consumer point of view as well. You know, I've been working in advertising industry for so long. You know, when I started, we were talking about greenwashing. Then greenwashing, you know, is not even a thing anymore. We're talking about, you know, sustainability. What sustainability mean? Probably, you know, redefining thing as well. So yes, I would say let's push forward, you know, the envelope on trust.
In terms of technology, technology is actually at the heart of our brands, because we know in order to be delivering the functions of the products as well as good to the planet, it requires a technology. It cannot just like, oh yeah, we play with reducing the plastics, or just salami slicing our formulation. So hence it can be deliver much more kinder formulations. We need to ensure that actually the product itself is performing, right? So technology play a very, very important roles in our products. So for example, in order to, like I mentioned, the comfort products, the new comfort product range that we deliver is actually plant-based technology, using a plant-based technology, which is one of the advantage that we have compared to other players in the industry. Why we are going into that trend of plant-based technology? Because we know that this plant-based technology able to protect the fiber, but also good to the planet. So meaning it's not only about the environmental impacts that we want to deliver, but the functions is also actually delivered. And imagines the way we see this is imagines like hair conditioners. So we actually sharing a lot of similarities like here. The technology is actually will help us protect the fiber from within. So hence the shape of the clothes will we will try to make it like much more protected, and then the color also will be delivered, and then as well as the protecting from the bubbling or the piling. Now, in terms of the plant-based itself, one of the advantage of that, because now that we are more into concentrations, actually our molecules per area is actually deliver more performance versus the previous formulations, and even versus the other competitors. And then forget about that. But what does it mean to the consumers? It means that because whenever you want to protect the clothes that you love, usually if you lost something, you will taking care of it, right? So we actually can creating products that make it easy for the consumers to look after their clothes without any hassles, and then guaranteed that you will get the results, as well as the fragrance is not only about softening or basically about caring, but we also can deliver the fragrance. And not only about that, the clothes itself will keep longer. So technology play a very, very important roles in here. Now, that is about the formulations. The other things also, we play a big role on how to understanding our consumers, and then technology here playing a very big role to understand what they need and how to communicate with them, because every consumers have a different needs and have a different way of communicating, right? So we have a lot of technology here in order to understand how to segment our consumers, how to target things the consumers better, so we can create what is relevance for the consumers. So hence, when we want to change the movement, to make the movement, it's actually not only about mambo jumbo. Okay, this is a planet's things, or you can creating good things for the planets, but it's also very close to their heart, very relevant to them. So hence people enjoy doing the movement itself in a fun and in much more easy way, without any burdens that we put in their shoulder.
In my opinion, and in my company, what we are doing is that we always do our research ahead on where the factories are. We always resource where the main production or the main producers are. We always do the research who are the best of the best when it comes to technology, like who are the best people who are doing the startups when it comes to advancement of applications. And then we will now weave them as a company and curate them according to the brands that we are catering. So the Fierce Walker Lab will curate services, production details, supply chain, and how to cultivate that and weave that works for their brand, because every brand is different. Every branding positioning is different. So we are honing it by using technology, using what we have, the resources that we have, and also the right people or expertise who will help us make it personalized and much more worth it with the money and less bad for the nature, for the environment. So that's what we are doing as a Fierce Walker Lab, and it makes me more proud to share it with you that having a partner like CFS and Lablaco, it will strengthen more my positioning on helping brands to be much more open-minded and listen to what we can offer more.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And we're out of time now. So if you had any closing remarks, feel free to add them in.
Thank you so much for joining the panel talks. Feel free to visit the galleries, the Impact Design Hub, and the Innovation Hub.